I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio as we continue to look across the state of Mississippi to celebrate all those amazing people who are working in the trenches to make this such a great place to live, work, and play. I hope everybody is doing a good job of sort of recovering from the storm as we move forward. I think when we have challenging times across the state, there are moments when we're reminded how special it is to live in the state. The politics and none of that other stuff matters. We reach out and help our neighbors. And I've said it many, many times. That's what separates Mississippians from other states. We've been in the trenches together, helping our neighbors and doing what is necessary to get out of the messes we get ourselves into. And since this is sort of a statewide show, and I talk about this on my outdoor show just about every week, but you got to think about the farming community up in the Mississippi Delta, really not just the Mississippi Delta, really all over Mississippi for that matter. When you think about farming and agriculture, you have to also think about the forestry guys and whether they sustain any tree damage or whether our farmers who were really at a really critical point of taking cotton out and soybeans. They've already sprayed their soybeans. They sprayed their cotton. They're really getting ready. Some of them about halfway through the process. Some of them, their cotton's not quite there, and then they get all this rain on their cotton and soybeans. Soybeans are going to dry out. The yield on cotton is going to be impacted. What was supposed to be just an incredible year in terms of yields, the prices have been down. Unfortunately, that's one of the unfortunate things. They're just hoping to break even. You don't want to see excessive rain go through the state of Mississippi. So, really, folks on the coast don't tend to think too much about our farmers. One of the beauties of me having this show is the chance I get to speak to the whole state and to share my personal experience from being in the Mississippi Delta and being so close to my farming friends, the Dunn family. Gives me a chance to explain sort of what some of their challenges are, but more importantly, I think, is remind people that the farming community, the forestry community in this state, is a huge, huge economic boost our state, and they're feeding the world literally. So anyway, I hope you're recovering well. It's only fitting actually as you think about Mississippian helping Mississippian, is that I have my next guest for today, Todd Trenchard for the Bacot Foundation of South Mississippi. He's the executive director there, and someone I really enjoy catching up with. We don't check in with each other as much as we used to, but now that we're together, it's good to get the latest and to help you understand what the Bacot Foundation is all about these days. Todd, how you doing, my friend?
We're doing well, Ricky. It's sort of, I guess, appropriate also. We're sitting here talking about another storm. We were talking about that storm, 20 years ago, and here we are 20 years later. A lot of people don't even, weren't either born or just don't realize what that was. And being new to Mississippi at that time, you were fully entrenched, of course, and actually rode out the storm. I mean, I've, look back at those times, it's sort of surreal that here you are on the radio all these years later, talking about another one.
Todd, what's interesting to me is, you talk about riding out the storm, and whether you rode the storm out in a flooded house or on a tree somewhere, or just in a house that wasn't impacted by the water and worried about trees coming through your house and all that. The truth is that Mississippians who remember Hurricane Katrina, there's a lot of PTSD in them. That was a tough experience, and they, for every storm that threatens coastal Mississippi, it brings back a lot of bad memories. And I have, as you know, on my personal Facebook page, I spent a lot of time, actually before Katrina, paying attention to models and tropical weather. As an offshore fisherman, I've always paid a lot of attention to the weather because I want to make sure I'm making the right decisions for my friends and family when I decide to go 100 miles offshore. But tropical weather has always been intriguing to me, so I've really paid attention to it. And then Katrina hits, that huge experience led to numerous editorial boards in my various roles with the National Hurricane Center as they were putting new surge maps and new surge warnings and changing how they look at storms so that people would not be caught in the way they were caught here in Mississippi and to some extent outside the levees in New Orleans or Louisiana. The improvements were being made there, but I pay close attention. So as a result of that, I hear from a lot of people, and people do worry a lot. And there is a lot of PTSD that exists as a result of Hurricane Katrina. But what that does is make people a lot more cautious, and maybe they prepare better. But your point, and someone made this on the show the other day, that it was a generational storm. So we've got people now who are in leadership roles, literally, who are just babies, or maybe not even on the Mississippi Cuts back then, and can't really. They can see the pictures and watch the videos and get some sense of that. But we've got a lot of work to do to just continue to educate people about why it's important to be prepared. This season, unfortunately, is not over yet. We've got Zeta hit at the end of October, so we got to still pay close attention. But I think we always got to put education front and center so people will be prepared. We'll help those people who experienced Katrina by giving them the best information possible, but then by giving all this information through the National Hurricane Center, through the weather services, through local TV and radio stations, through people like me who's experienced it and been focused on it in the way that I have, we can educate people and help them stay very much abreast of what the possibilities are. But you see that over in your neck of the woods as well, don't you?
We do, and I want to thank you because I've sort of watched you with things that are coming to the Gulf, and it's not so much your opinion. You're just showing us the sites that are giving you that information instead of some of these crazy sites that are way off the wall. And when you're a novice to the internet and maybe don't know, you could go to the wrong site, get the wrong information. And so I follow whatever you suggest, the models, and you're giving us statistics that are factual.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know what? Here's the thing. Over the years, Todd, I have learned to respect some really, really good meteorologists who don't hype. And that's the problem with today's world, the internet and social media. It's so easy to hype. And there are a lot of hurricane, quote unquote, sites that, they're driving hard to try to get views. And so, man, there's a lot of hype out there and people get concerned about hype. So, I initially did it. I did it, before my show, before I had, nearly 5,000 friends on Facebook. I was just doing it for my close friends and my family. I was putting it out there. They knew that I paid close attention, and they didn't even have to call me. They knew that I would post the latest based on what I'm seeing through all these various sites that I go to. And then of course, the show cranks up, and I would say the influence through the show and just my influence on social media increased. I didn't really change my approach. I just continue to, not interpret what the experts are saying, but sharing what the experts are saying in a non-hypey way. In the blogosphere, we call people who wish for a hurricane to hit where they are a wish caster. I'm not a wish caster by no stretch of the imagination. Someone referred to people like me as a modelologist. Studies the models and the people who are experts around the models, and maybe that's a fair way to say it. But all that information is available to everybody, and so some people just don't know how to take some of the hyping, and so that's what I'm kind of focused on. So anyway, Todd, how you been, my friend?
Doing well. I'm sort of glad the summer's over with. The heat starts to get to you about this time of year, and waiting for that first blast of the cool air. And I think we all look forward to that when you live down here. But it's what makes it so desirable, but at the same time, I could use a little relief, like I'm sure you could. I'm, getting a little bit older, hopefully a little wiser, and now starting to look at how you can pass on what you've learned in life to the next generation. So it's
for sure. Hey, listen,
interesting turn.
Hey, what we'll do when we get back on the other side, we're getting near the break, but when we get back on the other side, we'll remind people what the Bacot Foundation of South Mississippi is, people who have maybe not heard our conversation before, or maybe those who need a reminder. Also got some real big and important fundraisers coming up. It's always exciting to see the posts from the foundation and from you and from all the people involved in that effort. Lots of volunteers. We can remind people how many people are involved in that. And I think, Todd, every time we're together, I want to remind people that your story of recovery, your story, your personal story of resilience, is a wonderful reminder to people who may be struggling with some form of addiction, that there is hope at the end of the rainbow. And I want to remind people about that as well. But listen, we're coming to the end of this segment. When we come back on the other side, we'll pick up those pieces and give you the latest on some of the contributions that the Bacot Foundation has made here in coastal Mississippi, and just continue our conversation with my friend Todd Trenchard, the executive director from the foundation. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. We're visiting with Todd Trenchard, who's the executive director for the Bacot Foundation of South Mississippi. Todd, when you and I always have to make sure we spend a little bit of time on your story, because your story is one of resiliency, and anyone who's involved in any form of addiction, if you try and fail and try and fail and try and fail to sort of recover from your situation and find peace in your life, at the end of the day, you should never give up. Your story is about never giving up, isn't it, Todd?
That's so important, and it's so important to me personally, seeing that I had a brother that committed suicide, and obviously whatever was weighing on him became too much. And I guess I was blessed with that resiliency, that no matter how many times I got knocked down or knocked myself down, I would pick myself up. And it took a long time and a lot of, consequences to get me to finally reach that promised land where my life turned around. And now I can look at it, 25, 26 years later, and talk to others and sort of pass that message on. Because there's nothing worth that. I mean, no matter what you've done, first God will forgive you, then you forgive yourself, and you can be an asset to this world.
And you've certainly been an asset. And I, for people who have not heard us talk before, when your mother, after so many attempts at finding sobriety, dropped you off at Homes of Grace, she fully expected you to die. That she fully expected that to be the last time that she ever sees you again. That's how desperate it was.
It was certainly at that level, but she was a smart lady also, in that she knew that if she drove away and had no contact, there was only two things that could happen. One, like you said, I would die, or two, I'd turn to God. And because she knew that nothing by human aid was going to change me. And God just had grace on me and reached down and did something like they say in the movies, almost like a zap me, and it was over. The obsession to use was over. I had no idea about life at that point, but I didn't have that burden weighing on me. And so it took a long time of small little building blocks. Eventually, they would lead to the next level and the next level. And, probably took about 5 years before I had the thought that if I was a betting man, hey, I may have a shot at this thing. And I can remember very clearly at 7 years, if I was a betting man, I'd bet that I'm never going to have another drink. And those weren't easy times, but, today I'd put my money on I'm not going to take another drink. So, and you can only do that by staying connected and passing it on. Like they say, you can't keep it unless you give it away. And I've been blessed to be able to be put in a position to reach a lot of people and to try to get them to, see that there's a better world out there.
We've had entire shows about the challenges of addiction and all that. I came across something this morning that really kind of caught my attention. I always think of you and other friends that have had issues with addiction and they found sobriety and they're living such a wonderful life today. but it was something that was posted, said the best natural antidepressants. And it says, water and music and nature and sunlight and exercise and laughter and friendship and whole foods and quality sleep and time with family and meaningful work. And so it's just a great list. But, when you hear that list, you found happiness in your life focusing on those things, haven't you?
I have. And, again, as you go farther and spiral farther and farther down, you almost become very protective. You don't let anybody in, and you forget about those little things that are out there. And it's really peeling that onion where you learn those little basic building blocks of life that are a blessing every day. Just walking on the beach, just jogging and watching the birds, land in the water. I wouldn't even given that a thought. And in some ways, everything I went through is now an asset to me because I look at it differently than probably somebody that hadn't been there. They'd probably just take it for granted. But, I can look at a sunset or a sunrise and it can mean everything in the world to me. I know you do a lot of posts on your Facebook, of just how beautiful, how blessed we are down here in this part of the country to have what we have. It's unbelievable.
Yes, I've had I got an awareness of the importance of living in the moment. Maybe early in my life as a paramedic, not because I didn't face addiction like you, but the outcome of my life experiences helped lead me to a place similar to you where it's so powerful to live in the moment, to thank God for this moment. You can't do anything about yesterday, and it does little good to worry too much about tomorrow. But you can certainly look around you in this moment. Again, I've had life experiences that have helped galvanize that in me, and that's the way I live my life now, man. I look around me, and I know there are no guarantees about tomorrow. I know that for a fact, and I hug my grandkids and my kids harder than ever. I'm so thankful to have a wonderful relationship with my wife, Ann. But I don't take any of that junk for granted, Bud. I say junk. I shouldn't even use that word, but I don't take any of those things for granted. And that's what it's all about. But, people have their journeys. Everyone will face moments in their life, challenges in their life. They will find moments to be reminded of how the human spirit can be very resilient. Even after, how many times for you? How many treatment centers times for you? Over 30?
40 treatment centers before the Home of Grace. And, again, we're all a product of our experiences in life. And, you've had that experience. I've had that experience. Another person may not get a chance to look back at their life till they're on their deathbed. What a blessing to be able to, at a young age, be able to live part of our lives where we understand that it's not about us. It's about how God can work through us. That's going to, really be the measure of our days, like the book. That is what's important. It's not about the awards. It's not about, like you said, family is so important as you get older. Your health is so important as you get older. The little things you take for granted.
Let me tell you the interesting thing. I watch politics on Facebook and other X and other social media, and I watch how so many people are so invested in digging in around whether they're a Republican or a Democrat or have troubles with candidates or whatever it is. I watch them digging in, and I see them literally lashing out at their friends and lashing out at their family members. They're just so dug in, and I want to just slap them and say, "What? Get a grip, man! Listen, here's the reality." And people wonder about me, but this is the reality. I love my Democrat friends. I love my Republican friends. I don't fault them for believing what they believe politically 1 second. I'm able to set all that aside and look at them as people, and what I see in them as friends is special. and I could care less what they think politically. I really, literally could care less. And people say, "Oh man, we got to draw lines in the sand," and life is too darn short to let things like that happen. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, there's no question. I mean, I see that sometimes. It's almost fanatical in, the position some people are taking. And I know when I was a lot younger and not as wise as I am today, I'd have probably been right in the middle of all that. But, today, that's what made the country great, was working together, that there are different parties, that there are different points of view. And otherwise, we'd just be a monarchy and something that was talked about behind the castle. They come out and read a little, a statement and nail it to the wall, and that was it. So I'm not the doomsday believer that everything's going to be so bad. I think we're a resilient country and nation and people, and in the long run, I think God did form this country for a reason.
I think I agree with you. I think that the political environment has big pendulum swings, and we're in one of those moments where there's a big pendulum swing. Right. But it will find its place. I'm reminded of my conversation with Haley Barbour, and having the opportunity to be in the White House, under President Reagan, and being able to, after hours, see President Reagan and Tip O'Neill have a drink together. They violently disagreed on policy, but they totally appreciated one another, and they coveted their friendship. And Haley, to be able to observe that, he said one of the biggest issues in Washington today is they don't live there anymore, so they don't have to spend, really quality time together. When we come back on the other side, we're going to remind you about the Bacot Foundation of South Mississippi, and we'll tell you about some really important upcoming fundraisers they're going to be involved in. We'll see you after this with Todd Trenchard. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I have my friend Todd Trenchard from the Bacot Foundation of South Mississippi. And by the way, you may notice he may be dressed a little different, and I'm dressed a little different in the second segment because we were pre-recording the show, and we encountered a technical issue and had to come back couple of days later and finish this thing up. Sometimes that's just the way it is. It was we were doing some strange scheduling around the hurricane, and things kind of got messed up. But we're staying on path with the conversation. But if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube or SuperTalk TV, you may notice that some backgrounds may be a little bit different. So that explains that. Hey, so Todd, back to the Bacot Foundation of South Mississippi. Remind people a little bit about what it's about, some of the kind of commitments that you have made, and then we'll get into the really important upcoming foundation fundraiser you guys are involved in.
Well, we've been around since 1978, and I guess I came on board. It was a private foundation. We turned it into a public charity, really just in time for Katrina. I mean, what a coincidence that we would be sitting there as a public charity. We could start, taking monies from some of our big corporate donors like Chevron and Ingalls and Mississippi Power. But that tragedy or that cataclysmic event put us sort of at the forefront to make a difference with youth education and arts. Here we are some 21 years later. We've given out, tens of millions of dollars back into the community with a mindset of, it wasn't just a pass-through organization. We were going to get integrally involved in those causes, learn about them, and I've always believed you serve on those boards to learn about what they do, and fortunately I did that when I was a lot younger, get those things out of the way, but you meet people along the way, you develop relationships, and before you know it, you build a circle of influence, and that's how we met. Along that road, you were doing some stuff with the chamber, and I happened to be in the room, with the chamber, and, we became good friends. And before you know it, we started working together, on, things you were doing with the newspaper. And, you have to have somebody out there doing that. And I've been blessed to be able to give that opportunity and to have been able to utilize an organization like Home of Grace in this community. So you have it from a different perspective. So I think we've certainly made a difference. We weren't there before. And, when we started it, thought it might last a year or two. And here we are some 20-something years later. And, we've done it a little differently. We don't write a lot of grants. We don't want to get taken off course where we're at. We do events. And, of course, we were blessed to be able to have John Lucas and the IP believe in us. And it's now been, $3 to $4 million they give it to us for us to put on those events. And, when we put them on, we try to do the best things we can. We're not professionals at it, but it's not about the event. It's about promoting the causes in our community. And once you can keep that as your focus, today it's so different. I mean, I went to an event the other night at the Beau Rivage, So Strong, that Angel Myers, our district attorney, put on. Unbelievable. Just watch that, what a mother can do through a tragedy to make a difference, and to see what they've been able to do in, 5 or 6 short years. To play a small part in sort of being the one that started a lot of this off. So anyway, that's what we do, Ricky. And we put on 2 real big events a year. We have a golf tournament, and we have now the fashion show, Renaissance the Runway, which has become coast-wide hit. And if Ann would do it, you two'd be up there. But she's given that no. It's
nope, she would do a wonderful job, that's for sure, but it's not going to happen.
Y'all were on our first little list. I mean, like one of the first few names I wrote down when we were doing this. And so it's not for everybody, but we've turned it into something fun, and we'll have, this time a lot of kids involved, because that's what we do. And so we're going to have a lot of kids walking, and we have a fun time with it. We have some big events planned over the next week and a half, and just a fun time. We'll raise a lot of money, and on to the next.
So I think you say it's funny because you say you're not necessarily in the event business. You're in the relationship business. You're about helping bring people together, and a lot of times the magic of those forming relationships, give back to the community in ways we can't even fully appreciate. You raise a lot of money and fill a lot of gaps in the community. All those things are true. But at the end of the day, man, you've got this. First of all, you got a board that's been extraordinarily active, and you've really got the kind of the dream team as a board. But you've got a group of volunteers that are really refined this particular event, Renaissance the Runway, into one that is, as you pointed out, one of the premier events in coastal Mississippi. But when you think about what volunteers do to make this happen, it is pretty amazing, isn't it?
It is, and when Trent Lott used to say herding cats, I mean, that's what we do. We herd the cats, and they really get. You put people in their skill set, and they have fun with it. You trust them. I've learned a lot about myself through putting on events. I used to be hands-on, had to do everything my way, and I realized, hey, that's probably not the best or smartest way. And you find those people that are maybe doing something with another group. You ask them to help you and give them the tools to succeed. That old Mississippi Power, servant leadership.
Yeah.
Instead of dictating how to do it, how can I help you be successful? And once you start thinking that way, you start seeing the events grow, your efficiency grow, and now it's really pick out a date and do it.
Hey, so listen, for people, they probably have seen social media posts about it because so many different people are involved, and you take advantage of the networks of the people who are involved to really help communicate the event itself and people's involvement in the event. But if someone were to go to the event, what is it they would see? I mean, to explain sort of the format of it.
Well, if you went to this event here, you're going to come on, and it's just an hour. We start at a weird time, 7:07. Why 7:07? Because you'll never forget that once I say it. And so you pick that up from just seeing something off a speed limit that was not normal 25. But what you'll see is we'll have this particular event, we're doing a Taylor Swift theme. So we're calling all Swifties. We'll start off with a bunch of young kids from Donna's Dance Studio that'll come out and do Shake It Off. Then we'll have David Delk and Caitlin Perry come out, and they'll be our MCs. And then we'll have about 60 models that'll come out during the show. We'll have different things that are going on, just to sort of break it up. We'll raffle off a couple club level tickets to Taylor Swift in New Orleans. Last year we did that. Butch stepped up and I think he bid $35,000. But it's a way to give back into the community. So we have fun with it. But it is, about, monetizing it. We're not there for just a big party. But what we're really trying to do, Ricky, as much as anything by putting all this on, is showcase those causes and get somebody in that audience to think that maybe they can make a difference. And I remember after having met Butch, he said, I want to do what you're doing. And now he started the Butch Oslet Foundation, where he's giving back his monies. And, it's not about the little silent auctions that may raise you $100 for a ticket. It's about getting people to give back into this community that's blessed them so much. And we're starting to see more and more of that. So I'm excited about the future.
Yes, it really is cool. And, like David Delk's been on the show a few times. He's such a talented dude, can do just about anything. Mm-hmm. Caitlin has been on the show many times. They're going to make a dynamic duo together.
Oh, yeah. I get to meet, it's amazing, like you said, how many people step forward. The last couple of years, here we are, we're using the IP monies, but we're having a model mixer at the Beau Rivage. You have two major casinos coming together, and they're both so generous to us, as are all the gaming institutions. Throw in Michael in the magazine where you can help promote it each year, and you just find those people that, those different boutiques get a boost in, crowds from people wanting to see their styles. And the models, they're calling us now. We sold this thing out months ago. And, we just got 10 days to go, and, it'll be another successful event.
Yeah, speaking of Michael at the magazine, that's Michael Sunderman and Mary Sunderman at M2 Media, who have, among other things, South Mississippi Living. There's a long-time commitment that they have had to the Bacot Foundation of South Mississippi. It takes a lot of organizations like that committed, and there's so many of them like them who've found ways to give back to this organization so it can continue to fulfill its duty of filling gaps all across coastal Mississippi. It's really cool stuff. Hey, when we come back on the other side, we'll kind of close it out in the final segment with my friend Todd Trenchard from the Bacot Foundation of South Mississippi. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Bacot. Listen to me. Welcome back to the Bacot, the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. We had the Bacot Foundation of South Mississippi Executive Director Todd Trenchard on. I ran across this quote the other day, Todd, and I talk a lot about life's a journey of discovery, of learning. And the more you learn, the more you better learn how much you don't know. And that keeps you thirsty for wanting to know more. One of the great things about the Bacot Foundation of South Mississippi is that by bringing all these people together, you're giving everyone an opportunity to sort of get to know each other. As I mentioned earlier, the conversations that emanate from that, you never know where it's going to take you. Case in point, Butch Oslet and the work that he's done developing his foundation, et cetera. But you know what? There's really never an end to what you can learn about coastal Mississippi. I ran across this quote from B.B. King, and he said, the beautiful thing about learning is nobody can take it away from you. The beautiful thing about learning is nobody can take it away from you. I love that because it makes the point that when people come into this organization, whether it's in their own personal involvement on the board or giving back in some way or being involved in the events, they're learning things about coastal Mississippi. They're learning things about the people who are volunteering their time and energy to make this a better place that they will never be able to walk away from. I mean, once you learn it, then you're probably planting a seed, and they're trying to figure out, now, what role can I play? And if that's what you did as a result of putting these things together, putting these people together, you have scored a touchdown, in my view. And that's the way you look at it, isn't it?
It certainly is. I want to bring up one person just off the chart is a senior leadership at Chevron that retired, Jerry Jackson. And Jerry Jackson really wanted, after he retired, to give back into the community, and so he asked me what he could do, and I jokingly said, well, you could cut the grass around our office. Jerry has been out there cutting the grass around our office every couple weeks this whole summer, and I said, well, Jerry, I didn't mean you. You're in the no, this is the way I want to give back. And he also does other things. He's our incoming president at Rotary. It's not only led from what he does with us. Now he's putting on some of our events in Pascagoula, getting involved with Rotary, and he's sort of found his niche now as he goes a little bit farther in his life. He'll be walking in this fashion show. His wife will be walking. It's neat to watch that, see the spark go off in somebody, that everybody has something that they can offer and do. So I'm the most blessed guy in the world. I say that all the time.
Hey, listen, I've talked about this, obviously multiple times as we talk about what makes Mississippi so resilient, especially after major challenges like a Katrina, is that we're incredibly resilient and we reach out and we help our neighbor. If you look at national statistics, you can go back 20 years. Mississippi, on a per capita giving basis, for a mostly poor state, let's be honest, has always been in the top 5, 3, sometimes number 1 in terms of per capita giving. We know what it looks like to help our neighbor. And so the more we can do to network people and bring them together and help them find their role, every single person in coastal Mississippi everyone in Mississippi, for that matter, has a role to play in helping build a better community. And I think, what I love about what the Bacot Foundation of South Mississippi is doing is it's introducing people to the concept of this so they can ultimately find their role. And it can be just volunteering in a single organization, or it could be starting your own foundation and all points in between. You always envisioned that from the very beginning. I remember when I was at the Sun Herald, you always understood that bringing people together is the most important thing you could do. And then what would come of that would be as a result of them forming these relationships that go on for years and years. And it's been fascinating to watch that play out, hasn't it?
It has. And, I learned a lot from Katrina watching y'all with the charrettes process and stuff. I was just starting my career, but I was watching how everybody came together and got a plan. And I said, I could do that in the nonprofit world. I remember thinking that I could do that. And we had nowhere, we hadn't done anything at that point, but here we are, 20 years later, and we're still blowing and going. And, like I said, Ricky, the best is yet to come. I believe in the future. I believe in our young leaders that are coming up. I see talent that is way past anything that I would ever have. We bring up Julian Rankin all the time, or, these Christian Hartley, they're going to take this area to another whole level, I believe.
It is. And then when you think about the IP and the BOW and all these organizations, Mississippi Power, again, we if we try to list every one of them, then we're going to leave a lot of them out. But the way they were able to engage their organizations with an expectation that we're a better business if we're involved in the community. We're a better business because by being involved in the community, we can understand the community, the needs of the community. We can give back in substantive, meaningful ways. And as a result, our business is better as a result of it. But listen, you never cease to amaze me. You never disappoint. I appreciate your friendship and for joining me today, Todd.
Same here, Ricky, and appreciate Kyle, all you do. And, this venue here has made such a difference. And I watched y'all through the storm. That's where I got all of my news.
Well, thank you, my friend.
You directed me to the different sites to go to.
Yeah, we've really enjoyed serving through this show. So it's been a pleasure. Listen, have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.